Namaste, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Filter Coffee with author, thinker, researcher, and Indologist Nilesh Oak ji from USA. He's an Indologist who believes in backing science with research. He helps individuals get a deeper understanding on the antiquity of Bharat through his scientific research and also his understanding of our itihasas and puranas. Nileshji holds a BS and MS in chemical engineering, and also he has an executive MBA, and he has written 3 books specifically in the areas of the dating of Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the Bhishma Purana, subjects like that. So the subject for today that we have chosen is Navratri and Vedanga Jyotish. As we all know, today Hinduism is more into the ritualistic aspect. But what is the science behind it? That is the objective of this program that we are going to have with Nilesh ji today. And Navaratri, as we know, is in the 9 days celebration in the honor of goddess Durga. We do vrat fasting. We don't take anything grown under the ground because it involves harvesting the plant, things like that. Beyond that, what is the scientific reasoning? So this is the scientific aspects which we would like to explore with Nilesh ji and get a better understanding so that the rituals have more meaning. Welcome, Nilesh ji, to Verandah Club and this evening's program. It's an honor to have you again. Second time, I'm a big fan of yours. I've learned a lot from your videos, books. It's truly a treasure, sir. Welcome, sir.
Namaskar, Jagannathan ji. So very happy to be here and wishing you and also our viewers the best wishes, the greetings for Navratri, and which ends with the Vijayadashmi.
Yes. So we have I have some questions that I can ask you, sir, to understand the Navratri more to us and also more to me and to the readers of Veranda Club and other people interested in Indian uh, aspects. Sir, why does this Navratri celebration last for 9 to 10 days and 10th day being the culmination of Dashami and Vijaya Dashami? And the 10th day, Navratri, we call it the Vijaya Dashami. And what
Right.
is the civilizational significance of this civilization celebration?
Okay. So let's begin with the title of our topic, like Navaratri and Vedanga Jyotish. That's what we say. Now, people hear the word Vedanga Jyotish, and even many experts give all kinds of explanation. Now, that's perfectly fine. Everyone interprets whatever text or whatever information with their own intellect, and that's fine. And there is going to be a variation. I mean, everyone is limited, including you and me, in terms of our ability. But the Vedanga Jyotish is very interesting because right now, if you ask someone what is Vedanga Jyotish, they will refer to a specific text. Okay, a text by Lagada. It is attributed to sage Lagada, Lagad or Lagada. And it's a small text. That particular text is purely dedicated to the Indian calendar. Okay, the Indian lunisolar calendar. It's a fascinating text. However, what has also happened, I mean, it's not a negative point, but many people under the influence of the Western Indologist, but Western view of looking at the whole world, but also the antiquity of humanity, antiquity of human civilization, has brought these dates to our very recent periods. To the extent, if you go to Wikipedia, or if you ask even an average Indic expert, you say, when is this Vedanga Jyotisha text from? And they will say it's 1400 BCE. Okay. Now, is there something in Vedanga Jyotish that can be used to interpret to 1400 BCE? Yes, there is. But that is not the only interpretation and not even the best interpretation. Now, I don't want to go into that detail, but the reason I want to mention, see, it is called Vedanga Jyotish. Now, Veda has 6 anga. in order to understand Veda, we need to have a expertise into these six anga, like, Shiksha and Vakarana and Nirukta, and Kalpa and Chanda. Similarly, one of the six anga is a Jyotish. So think of it, Vedanga Jyotish. So all it's saying is it's a Jyotish, which is astronomy. You need to know astronomy to understand Veda. And it is one of the Vedanga, one of the six things that you must have in order to understand it. So that's why the word Vedanga Jyotish. Now, not going into the debate of when this current text that we have of Vedanga Jyotish, whether it is from 1400 BC as the mainstream would say, or possibly like going back to 20,000 years ago, as one of my co-researcher, Rupa Bhati, likes to make a case for it. We will not go into that. The text is very beautiful. It gives you the rules and regulations for the adjustments of the periodic adjustments required for Indian lunisolar calendar. And now we come to Navratri. Now, what is that one adjustment? There are many adjustments we need to make, but the one adjustment that we need to make very frequently, very periodically, I would say within like 5 years, we have to make it at least once. Okay. And that arrangement is the arrangement synchronizing the lunar calendar with the solar calendar. Okay, so solar calendar, just for simplicity, will take it 365 days, for the sun to go around the earth and come to the same point. Now that's what, 12 months. That's how it is divided. Now, why they divide it in 12 months? Because during that time, approximately, there are 12 lunations, 12 orbits of the moon. Okay. So 12 orbits of the moon, therefore, they assign that for the sun also. Now, here is a small problem that Vedanga Jyotisha solved in a beautiful way. The Indian calendar solved it. So 365 days for the sun. However, if you look at the 12 rotations of the moon, say from Amavasya to Amavasya, it adds up to 354 days. Each lunar month is 29.5 days times 12. That gives you 354 days. Okay. Now, so there is a gap between the lunar year of 354 days and the solar year of 365 days. It's a gap of approximately 11 days or 10.88 days. And so every 3 years, every 2 and 3 years, somewhere there, we have to make that adjustment. Otherwise, there will be no synchronization between the lunar and solar calendar. And we'll talk about why the synchronization is required. So that gap is of about 10 to 11 days. And how that gap is filled? Well, that's that Navratri celebration. So there is a recognition every year, or frankly, sometimes twice a year, that, hey, there is a gap between the solar and lunar calendar of about anywhere from 9 to 11 days. And let's recognize that. And you see this from the Vedic times, from the Rigveda times, actually, you see this. So going back in deep antiquity, we're talking 25,000, 50,000 years, and so on. And so how it is adjusted? It is adjusted by first recognizing that we need to synchronize for those 9 to 11 days. And how do we do that? Just like New Year, we celebrate because it's like everyone knows, hey, the old year is over. The new year has begun. It's the same thing. And that is that 9-day celebration, which ends with the 10th day of Vijayadashmi.
Amazing, sir. Sir, I just want to know, see, one is being aware, as you rightly said, and the other is the adjustment. So for being aware, first of all, as a common man, you wake up, there is a sunrise, and then there is the evening, there is a sunset happens. But how did our ancient forefathers come to know that there is a calendar like this, a solar calendar, a lunar calendar? I mean, at what point? I mean, any insights into that, sir?
Well, if the insight, no, that's a great question, Jagannathanji. The insight, I would say, it's for us, and I don't mean just for the Hindus or for Indians, but for the whole world, the modern scientist, okay, the cutting edge research in astronomy, quantum mechanics, name any field, the medicine for that matter. It is a mystery. Let's start with that. It's a mystery as to how the ancient Indian sages, the rishis, the rishi means scientist, and then we have the different words, right? The Swami and the Muni and Paramahansa and Rishi. So let's not go into what they mean. They can have multiple meanings. Over time, different meaning gets superimposed. But how they figured it out, we truly don't know. In fact, figuring it out, this gap between the solar and lunar year is the easiest thing, frankly, if you consider the kind of things that they have done. I'll just give you by way of illustration, and especially our viewers, who some of those who may understand, have some understanding of astronomy, should get goosebumps, okay, which is this. Some of the phenomenon in astronomy, now this is happening every 2-3 years, I told you, this Navratri, or why we need to adjust. But what if I tell you, like, see, the whole circle, it has 360 degrees. And some of the thing, just like Rahu Ketu, which moves like, in a 9-year cycle or 18-year cycle, like Rahu completes a circle in 18-year cycle. But what if I tell you there are some very fine phenomenon, such as the node of a Saturn, with respect to the sun's position or the ecliptic, and how slowly it moves. You know how slowly it moves? For example, to move 1 degree, okay? 1 degree, I mean, we're talking out of 360 degrees. It takes 300,000 years.
My
Okay?
God.
Yes. So for just that move, for 1 degree, I mean, we can't even notice it. 1 degree is like you can take the full moon size or the full solar orb and double it. That's 1 degree. So just for the change of that node of the sun with respect to the ecliptic, the Kranti Vrutta, it takes 300,000 years, 3 lakhs years. That's what Surya Siddhanta says. So first thing, people have a tough time even putting their mind around it. Like, is this happening? Is this even true? And then the next question is exactly what you asked, which is to say, how did they figure it out? And the answer is, we truly don't know. How did they figure this out?
Brilliant, sir. I mean, I don't have any words how they even comprehended. I mean, let alone. So now there are two periods in which Navratri is celebrated. One is briefly celebrated in the Chaitra Masam month,
Correct.
and now is the Ashwin month. It is celebrated. But why this is more significant? This celebration in this month more celebration significant than the other one.
Okay. Now, great question. Before that, just a previous one, I'll just mention on that subject that I mentioned, like 1 degree in 300,000 kind of prediction or estimation done by Surya Siddhanta. Very recently, Dr. Anil Narayanan, who was a former ISRO scientist, aeronautical engineer, and myself, we published a paper in a peer-reviewed journal on that very subject, by the way, the notes. So it's even the modern astronomy has not come to terms with these predictions. Okay, that's just so fascinating. Like, that's why it's a mysterious. Even modern astronomy hasn't figured it out. First thing, whether the prediction made in Surya Siddhanta are true or not. Directionally, they understand it is true, but the magnitude. And how did these ancients figure this out? Because the amount of time we need to make these observations is very long. Okay. Now, back to your question. I don't. So yes, you said correctly. There is a 9-day Navaratra celebration around Chaitra and also Ashwin. As to why the Ashwin has become more popular, celebrated with more activities, I truly do not know the answer. Okay, the both are connected with, of course, with all kinds of things, but also, I mean, they're celebrated in all different ways. For example, in Ayodhya area, the Chaitra Navratra is celebrated all around Bhagwan Ram. Okay, so that could be the regional flavor of it. Now, the Ashwin Navratra, I think throughout India, to the best of my limited knowledge, is really celebrated with a Devi. Yes. With a Devi as a center. But as to why this is very important, I don't know. Only from an astronomy perspective, what I will tell you is that right now, what we are celebrating, say Chaitra Navratra or Ashwina Navratra, they were, if you go back 2000 years, they actually coincided with the beginning of the Sharad season and beginning of the Vasanta season, Vasanta Rutu and a Sharad Rutu. And because of the precession, now they have moved by about a year, about a month they have shifted, but we still continue to celebrate in that fashion, which is perfectly fine. But we have not made that correction. So if somebody wants to take over, like the national calendar folks, they may want to do it. And in that case, we might need to move it to Bhadrapad, Bhadrapad and Falgun. But that's a different subject. But I don't know exactly why Ashwin has become more prominent, more celebration. But there may be other people who might know that.
Okay. Fantastic, sir. Here in Tamil Nadu and parts of South India, maybe other parts also, I don't know. There is a celebration during the Navratri with the Golu festival. Where they
Yes.
keep dolls, they invoke the goddess. Then evening there is a katha recitation. It's a theme that they have in their houses. And they follow it every year. And Kolu is a celebration in itself. And night around 8:45 or 9, the prasad is given and sober celebrations. But some parts in Gujarat or something, there is very nice garba or things like that,
Dandiya, right. Garba
dandiya
and Dandiya.
dandiya
Yeah.
and things like that. So
Yeah.
the diversity is something worth celebrating. But what is the context of these? Any mentions that in ancient texts and itihasas that you know of Navratri, sir, in our
Okay.
itihasas?
So, well, again, that's a subject that, no one can give a comprehensive answer. But if you see in the Purana, like Devi Purana and many of the Upa Puranas, people will see lots of descriptions. So I will not mention any specific text. As to like a Devi Puja happening in the Mahabharat times, right before the Mahabharata war begins. That reference comes in the Mahabharata text itself. Again, it was a Sharada Rutu, like, what we are referring to. Month of Margashirsha then, because of the precession, it wasn't Ashwin, but it was a Margashirsha. So, for example, if you look at this, so we have already slipped by 2000 years, that we should actually be performing in Bhadrapad. But we are still performing in Ashwin. So if you take Bhadrapad, Ashwin, Kartik, and Margashirsha, so that shift of 4 months, and one shift takes 2000 years, that itself just tells you that the Mahabharata war happened about 8000 years ago, just from this. So there is a Durga Puja right at the beginning of the Mahabharata war. Again, that's a Sharad season. So we do have one reference, not necessarily celebration for 9 days. I mean, it's not that precise. So it will come into other Puranas and whatnot. But again, remember, that means it's an adjustment to the calendar. And we have a solar calendar beginning with the spring equinox. So that is that Chaitra Navaratri we are referring to. But there were also Sharada-based calendars. And that's why, if you are familiar with the term, like when we are celebrating birthdays, here we say happy birthday. And then, of course, in the modern English influence, we will say happy birthday to you and so on, which is all fine. But there is also a Ashirvad, that was Ashirvachana, that was given by the elders to the youngers on their birthdays or even when they made, that said, Jivet Sharada Shatam, let you live hundreds of Sharada. Just like somebody saying, let you live hundreds of years, Shata Ayushi, you live for 100 years. Jivet Sharada Shatam. That Sharad itself was used in a synonymous sense of a year. In the sense of year, like let you live for 100 years, Jivet Sharada Shatam. The reason again is because one of the calendar, for example, began with the Sharad Rutu. And again, Mahabharata refers to that. Mahabharata has evidence to show that one of the many calendars began with Margashirsha as the first month of the year. And at the time of Mahabharata war, Margashirsha was the first month of Sharad Rutu. So yes, there was a celebration. There are no detailed celebrations. I mean, no detailed descriptions. But just taking a digression for a second, Jagannathji, what I will mention is there is another festival. You mentioned Kolu, by the way. And so not only Tamil Nadu and the southern India, we celebrate it here. Right in my neighborhood, there are 3 celebrations of Kolu going on, so we'll be going and attending that. And of course, the Garba and Dandiya that you mentioned, that is also will be happening at many mandirs here. So that is true. But let me mention another festival. And see, that's the beauty. I mean, of course, we are talking of Navratri, which is a new year. Navaratri. See, so Nava is a 9. That is there. 9 Ratri. But also it's a new beginning, new night and new beginning. If you take Nava in the sense of new. And of course, Nava in the sense of 9, both make sense. I mean, both are relevant. But what I don't know what celebration is considered in southern India. I know in Maharashtra it's called Gudi Padwa. If you have heard that. In Telangana and Andhra Pradesh area, it's called Ugadi, and so is in Karnataka, right?
Yes,
Ugadi.
in Tamil Nadu, yes, Tamil Nadu, Tamil New Year's Day.
Tamil New Year's Day, right? So for
April
Ugadi,
14th.
right. And so just I'm taking this opportunity to tell you something very interesting. So as far as the Navaratri goes, we have some reference in Mahabharata. It may be there in the older text that I don't know. Definitely Puranas, you see many, many references. Like any Devi Purana, Devi Upa Purana, you will find those. But see that Gudi Padwa Ugadi festival, it is referred to in Mahabharata, okay, as a Samvatsara festival, New Year beginning.
Achha.
And it is also referred to in a Ramayana multiple times.
Okay.
Okay, so it is that old. I mean, Ramayana is 14,000 years ago, Mahabharata is 7,000 years ago. And of course, we have no reason to immediately think, oh, it must have started in Ramayana. Well, it must have existed before Ramayana too. It's just that we may not have a reference to it. So yes, the way we celebrate might have been modified a little bit. As we said, there is a regional influence and whatnot. But it is a very old tradition just because it's as old as a calendar. And this is a way of socially making everybody aware, like it's a sign, it's a signal. So that's called Nitya and Nimitta, which is to say every day there is a sun rising and moon is coming and the Purnima is happening, Amavasya is happening. But the special days are celebrated just like Navaratri. It is to send a sign. So Nitya becomes Nimitta. Nitya becomes Naimittik in the certain context that allows us to communicate the knowledge to the masses. And that was a beautiful way of communicating that when we did not have a WhatsApp, that was the way of communicating.
So really remarkable and stunning, sir. The knowledge and antiquity that we have been passed on, and we have had the fortune to understand this. So if there is a gap that has been created, has it been synchronized, or is it, or it is an ongoing process that the Panchang does, and how is it worked out, sir?
Okay. So yes,
Between the
the
solar and lunar.
synchronization, right? The synchronization between solar and lunar. Let's, in terms of its acknowledgement, let's understand that again, this is well understood from the Rigvedic times. And therefore, we are talking of 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, and it could be a lot more in antiquity. We just don't know how far back. Because Rigved mentions the beautiful, like the first mandala 164 and 164 sukta, and it mentions the 12 signs in the sky. So there is, people talk of the 12 zodiac signs coming from Greeks. The Greeks did not exist more than 4,000 years ago. Rigveda is there for more than 25,000 years ago, and Rigveda is mentioning 12 signs in the sky. Okay. Now it doesn't give a description. So the zodiac in some form is mentioned by Rigveda. Rigveda mentions the 13th month. Rigveda mentions the Adhika Masa, the correction that is required to bring the solar calendar in synchronicity with the lunar calendar. Now, as to the methods used, they might have changed. Okay. So let's start with our times. The current method that is being used by Panchanga makers is actually extremely sophisticated, very, very ingenious method. And that method is possibly only 1,000-year-old. Okay, so this is attributed to one Indian astronomer, Sripati. Okay. And he was around approximately, I'm saying, around about 1,000 years ago. And I will not bother mentioning because it might involve the technicalities, but essentially he designed a system for inserting the Adhika Masa, that Purushottam Masa that we say, when to insert, when exactly it would occur. He just made this in such a way that actually the method now is on an autopilot, literally on autopilot.
So who decides it, sir? And which month it would be?
Well, it keeps on changing. So, for example, just now, this year, I think it was the month of Shravan. That was a Adhika Masa.
Okay.
This year, it was a month of Shravan that was Adhika Masa. But it can be, right now in our times, it can be anywhere from Vaishak And you might have slightly different name in the south, how you say it, like Chaitra, Vaishak, Jeshta, Ashad. That's how I know from Marathi. Okay. Shravan, Bhadrapad, Ashwin, Kartik, Margashirsha, Paush, Magh, Falgun, right?
Stars.
So, right, stars. So this year it was in the month of Shravan. And it's going to occur every 2 to 3 years. It won't occur every year. Now, why is that? Because remember, the gap is of about 10 to 11 days. It gets accumulated. So second year, it will be a gap of about what? 20 to 22 days. The third year, it will be a gap of 30 to 33 days. Now 30 days, 33 days is very close to the lunar month of 30 days, 29 days. So about every 2 to 3 years, it gets inserted so that we again synchronize with the solar calendar. But which month to decide, which month to take as Adhika Mas, and when to do this, Sripati, a phenomenal astronomer, he did this about 1,000 years ago. And again, I will not describe it because that could be our one whole coffee, filter coffee session. So I will not go there. But he just did it as an automated. So there is no arguments and there is no discussions going on. There is no need for it. Even sometime there happens, but that would be, we'll take it some another time. Interestingly, that was not the method at the time of Mahabharata. Like we don't know exactly what method of Adhika Masa they used at the time of Mahabharata. There are guesses. And that's why there was a confusion. For example, some people say there was one astronomer, amazing astronomer. He was a lawyer by profession based in Nagpur, central India. P.V. Hole. Okay, his last name was Hole. And he, based on a study of all the Vedanga Jyotish, all the different texts, he suggested, this is a conjecture, he suggested that in the ancient times, possibly the Brahmana period, which is like going back at least more than 20,000 years ago, but also the Rigvedic, the Samhita period, there was a possibly method that he gave a name called Shunashepa, and we'll not go into what that meant. But that method, it referred to looking at the specific star in the sky, near Ardra Nakshatra, Ardra and Punarvasu, which is your Nataraja, the Ardra and Mrugashirsha is the area of a Nataraja, in the sky. And just like you have that Ardra Purnima festival in Tamil Nadu, right? Ardra Purnima, I don't know the exact name of it. At the Chidambaram festival.
Yes. Arudra Nakshatram.
There you go, Arudra Nakshatra, right? So that is the position.
Yes, just a small anecdote, sir. Thiru Uttarakosa Mangai is the in Ramanathapuram district of Tamil Nadu, is where the oldest is called Adi Chidambaram, where you might be knowing it is the oldest Shiva temple on earth. They have a Maragata Natarajar, which is a emerald stone carved Natarajar, which is kept in sandalwood paste covered, and only on Arudra Star Day the Abhishekam is performed. And January 7th of this year, I was fortunate enough, with a milling crowd of probably lakhs of people, I got the darshanam from Shiva, Lord Shiva himself. I was truly
amazing.
As I speak, I get goosebumps.
Yes, you should. And don't think I know this. No, I did not know that. In fact, I know Chidambaram place, but the Adi Nataraja place you are mentioning, I'm hearing from you, and thank you for sharing that. But see how the connections are, right? So now I mention Ardra, and I'm mentioning in the context of the method that was possibly used in the Mahabharata times or before for adjusting the synchronizing the lunar and solar calendar. It was called Arudra, like your Ardra festival, and you are calling that name Arudra, right? Like that. Just that in that Ardra Nakshatra, there are two stars. One is I think it's Betelgeuse or one of those. That, and next to that there is another star. In modern astronomy, they call it Al-Hina. In Indian astronomy, we called it Varuna, the star of Varuna. Okay. And what is interesting is that was, Sri Holeji, he conjectured that star was the reference point. So what they did is, now this one, most people will understand. For example, what they did, they started after that Ardra star, meaning that Al-Hina star, they started counting the number of full moons. So the position of a full moon after that Al-Hina, Varuna, Ardra star. Okay, they counted one full moon, 1, next full moon 2, next full moon 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, as the year passed. Now, if there were only 12 full moons between that, after the Ardra star and before that Ardra star in 1 year, there was no Adhika Masa in that year. But if there occurred 13 full moons, and it will happen in every 3 years or so, between that Ardra star to the next Ardra star, meaning coming circle and making a circle, then they counted that as a Adhika Masa. And we have a evidence in the Mahabharata text, in an indirect evidence of a confusion whether there should be Adhika Masa and what should be the lunar name of a specific Masa. When for example, Bhishmacharya, when he is going to pass away after staying on the bed of arrows, Shavashaya, for more than 95 days, and now he's going to pass away on the day of a winter solstice, what we call Uttarayan, right? He looks at the positions and he's not very sure exactly what is the lunar month. And if his words are like this, he says, Maghoyam samano prapto masa punyo yudhishthira. Tribhaga Shesha Pakshoyam Shuklam Bhavitum Harasi. It appears to me, he says, he's not confident. It says, I think this looks like the month of Magha, like a Magha Mas, month of Magha. And the 1/3 of the portion of a Paksha or the month either has passed or either is going to still remaining or something. There is a confusing verse. But the reason the confusion is there is possibly because of this method. Shripati's method was not there. So the method is a bit approximate, like look at that star and count it. Now people can disagree because in that year, 5561 BCE, that the last full moon, is happening exactly at the point of that Ardra star, Alhina. So now we have to decide, do we count this as a 13 or we don't count it? It's like right on the middle line, like in tennis, you have the ball falling at the border and you say, is it inside or is it outside? So that's the kind of confusion that you have. And there is an indirect evidence of that in the Mahabharata. But back to this, just to answer your question and close it. Today, we have an extremely sophisticated method, thanks to Sripati. And it's like essentially on autopilot. And maybe some other time we will do a filter coffee session on that Adhika Masa method. But again, how we socially let people know? Through festivals like Navratri.
Brilliant. So now, see, as you are answering this question, the bigger question comes to my mind is every month people were looking at the sky, literally, truly stargazing.
Yeah.
Only if you are in a position of strength, only if one is comfortable, only one is fulfilled of the basic needs, that one is able to do these things. So what a flourishing civilization we would have been for somebody, a systematic way of astronomy science to grow, inquisitiveness to arise. Nobody will be having that inquisitiveness right now. I mean, people will be stuck in their mundane lives. That has not been the case.
Yeah. So that is the again beauty of Hindu civilization. Is there all these exciting things that you see? For example, I mentioned shift in the position node of the Saturn 1 degree in 300,000 years. And we are still scratching our head. Why did somebody even want to measure that? What's the significance of it? And who was using it, other than just a pure curiosity? And what you will find in the Hindu tradition, the Indian tradition, the civilization, is hardly anything was just done for the sake of it, like as a superficial knowledge. Nothing was done. In fact, this whole astronomy is directly connected, as what you just said, with the prosperity. Directly connected with the prosperity, directly connected with our well-being, health. The mental health, like, that's why we call lunatics, people, because with the moon cycle, their mental balance changes, goes ups and downs, So mental health, intellectual health, and a physical health. Like in our mothers and sisters, think of their cycles, their hormonal cycles, and their periods and all. That is, whether it is tied with a moon cycle or not, that's a different subject, but it has that same periodicity like the moon, the 28 days and so on and so forth. So our personal health, but also the prosperity and our Ayurveda point of view. See, Ayurveda very much depended on astronomy. Okay. Now, agriculture depended on astronomy, when to sow the seeds. Even to this day, if you go to villages, my village where I grew up, people say, okay, oh, this one, the next nakshatra, Ardra, is beginning there. Mrugashirsha is beginning. So start sowing the seeds, or Hasta, it's a time to harvest, on the Hasta nakshatra. So they were following this, very much was required. And so for agriculture purposes, for your personal health, for your health in the sense of Ayurveda, okay? And that's why these yajnas were there, performed to keep a very strict, precise calendar. But one more point is the commerce, which is through navigation. And if you are going, so what is the GPS system of our ancient Hindu civilization? It is astronomy.
Wow.
You know the pole stars, the exact timing to be expected for rising of a certain star at a particular longitude and latitude. And based on that, when you see a rising of something, you can do backward calculation and find out where exactly you are in the ocean, middle of the ocean. Or you can make observation and decide how far you have to go to a certain destination.
My God. Sir, mind-boggling. I mean, no words. Today we are just, I think we are ruined by mobile phones and Google and things like that.
Correct. So, of course, we should appreciate the technology also. I mean, the modern
Yeah, that is
technology
there.
is to be
That is there.
appreciated. See, if you look at the Surya Siddhanta formula for predicting the position of the moon, actually, it's impressive. It's impressive. I mean, no other ancient civilizations, if you go back beyond 300 years, I'm only talking 300 years. If you go before 1500, just for safe things, say 1500 CE, if you go beyond 1500 CE, no other civilization in the world and their astronomy comes anywhere close to the precision, accuracy, sophistication, ingenuity of Indian astronomy. And just imagine, the Indian astronomy did not stay themselves with some experts. They communicated that knowledge through the festivals like Navratri or Ugadi, Gudi Padwa, and now we will have a Diwali. Diwali is another festival, right? So it was communicated. So we have to all see CEO. They may have a big discussion, but when the CEO of the corporation comes out and gives a message, the message has to be simple and straightforward. Saying our company is doing good, and these are the things we need to do to keep it good, or our company is in trouble, and these are the things we need to do to fix it. That's the same way this was done. It was made simple. The actual time could be 9 days, 10 days, 11 days. It was made simple by saying Navaratri, the 10th day celebration.
The Chinnajayar Swami, who built the Statue of Equality in Hyderabad, they have a program of delivering Swarna Mangala Prashna, which is gold, distilled gold, probably mixed with prasad, and they give drops to children. And they say that it helps sharpen their mind, calm their uh, gunas and things like that. And it very interesting, sir. I had been to one of the programs here in Coimbatore by the Pragnya Trust. They said that they deliver this prasad in a temple and only on the Pushya Nachatra day, because the absorption is very high. The nutritional absorption is very high. So, I mean, likewise, there is an Ekadashi day when people don't eat. Fasting is there because the absorption is. I mean, when you fast, the benefits are much more.
Yeah. Good. If I can add something to it, like, my good friend, and he's the son of my professor, and so best professor, my professor Padma Bhushan, JB Joshi, his son Aniruddha Joshi, he has a PhD in computing science, but he took it to making Ayurveda, bringing Ayurveda with the modern sophisticated technology. But the specific point I want to bring it to what you just mentioned, the specific time for how your digestive fire is. He has collected data of like 1,000+ patients. Actually, it goes into lakhs of patients, because the data comes in, and certain parameters they measure, like a nadi, they can measure the like a heart rate, but many others. And what they have found is typically, and it's very strong in the Shukla Paksha, the first bright half, but Chaturthi and Ekadashi. Chaturthi and Ekadashi, this is I would say, generalization. Every individual is different and we have to, fine tune ourselves. But for masses, like as a generalization, Chaturthi and Ekadashi is when our digestive fire is at the lowest. Like our digestion power. And now if you relate to some of those, especially the Ganesha Bhakta, let's say, and maybe the Vishnu Bhakta, or whoever fast on Ekadashi, related to Vishnu or Shiva, doesn't matter, Ekadashi Rudra, so you can do that too. And with the Ganesha, on the Chaturthi. So many people fast on Chaturthi, many people fast on Ekadashi. And again, this may be the Ayurveda generic message given to us in a ritual form. Guys, fast on Chaturthi and fast on Ekadashi. But the scientific principle behind that, coming from Ayurveda and astronomy, because it has to, Chaturthi and Ekadashi is astronomy significance, the specific position of moon and sun. There, the digestive fire, for whatever reason, in our body is at the lowest. That's what Dr. Aniruddha Joshi has figured out with the data. Actually, I have the data, that it's just amazing. So that is a connection. And so what I want to mention is, in the Indian context, in the Hindu context, the Sanatana context, Adhyatma and Vijnana are not at opposite end of each other. They are not fighting with each other like you see in the rest of the world or civilization. In fact, my good friend Fadkeji, he gives a definition, and I have started using that. I'm convinced, I love it. He says Adhyatma is essentially refined Vijnana, refined science. And what is Vijnana? He says refined Adhyatma. So they just grow with each other.
Yeah, there is no contradiction. There is no contradiction. One
it's like
complementing.
Two wings of an aeroplane, they both are required, and they both are helping each other, fine tune. So something we take from Adhyatma, we test it, and something we take from Vijnana, and we can use it in Adhyatma. That is how we said fast on a Chaturthi. That's like something coming from Ayurveda possibly and been implemented in a social life, and vice versa. Vice versa, I will give you an example like today. I just became aware of it today. Actually, the research paper is from 2012, so about 10 years old. So I have to read again. I just read a quick one reading. You know the story of Matsya Gandha from Mahabharata, right? The mother of Bhishma. So, and what is the story there? Not mother of Bhishma in a different way, I'm saying, but the mother of Vyasadeva, like Parashar and Matsyagandha, their son is like Vyasadeva, right? This story, if you remember, that this Matsyagandha, her body, fisherman's daughter, body would smell like a fish. That's how the katha comes to us. And Parashara Muni, when he met her, and through their union, then a son was born. But Parashara, the story tells us, gave her a blessing, saying, you will no longer smell like a fish. Your body will no longer smell like a fish. Now, this is how the katha comes to us, because katha has to come in an interesting form so that we remember it, But now there is a research which says that a certain, like what you can say, the odor or a smell, can you say in a human being, but especially in a woman, because it's related to that, can change, modify when she become pregnant because of the hormonal changes. And there is a paper about that, that I just became aware today. So think of it. Now, this is a katha, that is coming from, say, Adhyatma, say from a Mahabharata text. But then somebody thought of, is an Indian scientist, Indian biologist, I think. He decided to research on it, and this is what he found.
My God.
So that's what I mean by Adhyatma grows by refining Vijnan, and Vijnan grows by refining Adhyatma. That is a good illustration.
Hand in hand. It's complementing. Like the four wheels in a car. Brilliant. Sir.
Right.
So coming back to this, now Navaratri, if it is New Year, why no longer is it followed as a New Year, sir?
Well, I don't know exactly when it happened, but what happens is because these astronomy changes are very slow, very, very slow. So it's like decide, hey, are we done? Now, should we make a change or should we not make a change? And therefore, like there could be hesitation on the part of people. Then we have to communicate this across the region, across the culture, civilization, the change of it. And the experts can disagree, like all the experts, what they say, it is very difficult to get the experts to agree on anything. There are verses of that effect in Mahabharata and Chanakya and all the texts. So maybe because of that, it gets delayed. And we have evidence of that happening in the past, like Vishwamitra getting angry that people are not agreeing to his astronomy correction. So he goes on and creates a Prati Srishti. We get this reference in Ramayana, we get this reference in Mahabharata. Some people think literally he created a Prati Srishti like another universe. No, he's actually referring to making changes to astronomy calendar. And people are not necessarily agreeing with him. So we have evidence of that happening. Something similar has happened in our times, like say the current calendar, like Chaitra beginning, the Ugadi, or Ashwina celebration of a Navratri. They were coinciding with the beginning of the Sharad season, okay, or beginning of the Vasanta Rutu. But that was true 2000 years ago. That is not true today. So maybe there is a need for a change, just like our Makar Sankranti. See, Makar Sankranti was actually a celebration of a winter solstice. But now it has shifted by about what? About 25 days. So we are still celebrating Makar Sankranti, which is a correct celebration, but it is no longer a celebration of winter solstice. So some of the changes that need to be made, but if you think of it, about at least last 1,000 years, the Indian civilization was affected by very demonic forces, from outside, who had no interest, in like the simple pleasures of life, but just the basically like the imperialist type of thing or consumerism type of thing, just pull. So I think we probably did not have a time to think through. So maybe the correction that was required and that was used to be made in the past,
So
it
we
has
missed
not
out.
been made in the last 1,000 years. That's just my guess, I
Yeah,
would say.
quite possible, sir. There would have been a skip or something, and survival was a difficult thing, so things would
Correct.
have taken a back seat.
Right.
Sir, is there an evidence of the year beginning with the equinox in Indian tradition?
Oh, yeah, very much. So, for example, in Indian tradition, in a very consistent fashion, the solar year, Surya Chakra, you can say, or, Surya Panchanga, always began, I should say now, because it no longer does in a way. It always began with the day of a spring equinox. So, in our modern times, that's like a 21st of March, just for simplicity, So, it always began there. Now, the similar thing there was an importance to the fall equinox that was called Vishuwadin. So some new yajnas began on that day, and exactly halfway in the year is the opposite of it. That is the fall equinox or autumnal equinox, which is in modern times we can say 21st of September. Okay, so that was the day. That's a Vishuwadin. Again, Vishuva itself means balanced, which means the night length and the day length is about similar. So that we already have. But going further, even we have the evidence today, Chaitra. Why Chaitra? Because 2000 years ago, it was the beginning of Vasanta Rutu. Similarly, we have a calendar and we see that. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. The very Navratri celebration is related to that, which was the celebration when the new year began with the Sharad Rutu. But even our Diwali celebration, the Diwali celebration, which is the end of Ashwin and beginning of a Kartik, and that is celebrated as New Year in many places. Like for business people, it's a New Year,
Lakshmi Pujan.
Lakshmi Pujan and all that, because that was connected with this Sharad equinox, the Sharad Sampat. So we had that. And then as I mentioned, in the Mahabharata, Mahabharata Margashirsha was the first month of Sharad season, and Mahabharata has references to it at least twice, saying Margashirsha was the first month of the year. So we do have historical references of calendar beginning with this equinoxes. We also have historical references of calendar beginning with the winter solstice, summer solstice, and the beginning of specific rutus.
Mm-hmm. So 9 days is the Navratri. Now, the one question that arises is the Dashami, which is the Vijay Dashami. Across epics, Puranas, Itihasas, it is celebrated for various reasons. Vijaya Dashami, it is self-explanatory, victory of good over evil. So, what are the references and how accurate are they historically, sir? Because you have done a lot of work, research on Mahabharata and Ramayana.
Yeah. Well, so great question. Let's split it into two. First thing, why for a given celebration, such as say Vijayadashmi or even Diwali, that Amavasya Lakshmi Pujan, so many things get superimposed. So for example, if we take Vijayadashmi, it is connected with the events in Mahabharata, like, the Pandavas taking their weapons from the Shami Vruksha, the Shami tree that they were hidden there. If you go to Ramayana, I mean, not the Ramayana Grantha I'm saying, or not as a history, but as a celebration, Vijayadashmi is celebrated as a Rama killing Ravana, the victory of a good over bad and so on and so forth. If you take Diwali, you mentioned Lakshmi Pujan, but that Diwali is also celebrated for 10 other reasons, 10 different things. And same thing with Vijayadashmi. So why possibly that? My simple answer is, my conjecture, I would say, because our civilization is so old and many celebrations kept on started happening, and if we are going to celebrate everything every day, then we would have no time for school and work and travel and anything else, right? So I like to think they superimpose these celebrations. So that's the answer. Now the Vijayadashmi, for example, just at the end of Navratri, it is celebrated, as I say, Rama killing Ravan, okay, or Pandavas taking out their weapons. Historically, if you look at it, there is no relevance to that. For example, historically, Pandavas taking out their weapons is actually that happen, if you consider the Rutu, happen somewhere in the Vasanta Rutu, Vasanta Grishma, that area, like almost 6+ months removed from the time of Vijayadashmi when we celebrate. Okay, so that's that. If now nothing wrong in celebrating, because see, this is like finding the devices. These are the nimittas, finding the devices to remember our history. Okay. Now, if you take Rama killing Ravan, Rama did not kill Ravan on the Vijayadashmi day. If you look at the Valmiki Ramayana, okay, it was actually Chaitra Amavasya. Okay, the end of a Chaitra month. That is, it was Amavasya day when he killed. But as a celebration, we are doing this together. And I'll take another quick myth there, because many people think, so, okay, Rama killed Ravan on the Vijayadashmi day. And then Deepavali, just like Lakshmi Pujan, but it's also celebrated as Rama's arrival in Ayodhya. Now, I'm saying as for the celebration, it's perfect. Actually, in Ayodhya, there will be a big celebration on a Deepavali day, right? So celebration, perfect. But from a historical accuracy and precision perspective, when Rama killed Ravan, it was a Chaitra Amavasya. And when Ram arrived in Ayodhya, okay, it was a Vaishakha Shukla Shashti, and it was a Pushya Nakshatra. Okay. Vaishakha Shukla Shashti, it wasn't a day of Amavasya, and definitely not the Ashwin Amavasya, but for celebration, it's perfect. So we have to also understand why we celebrate, but not to confuse that memory with the historical accuracy.
Perspective. Sir, as we speak on Vijayadashami, I want to recall it was a journey of Veranda Club magazine, how we started 3 years back during the lockdown period. It was all dark and things were not moving. So group of us started working on this project, and it so happened the website was up and running, and just in time on Vijayadashami day, sitting in the Shardambal temple in Coimbatore, we launched the uh, project. So live. We went live on that day. The first edition of the magazine went live on the Vijayadashami day. So as we are probably now getting close to culmination of 3 years of existence of Veranda Club, sir.
Abhinandan, congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's truly an honor to commemorate that with your filter coffee program. and it has been a truly enriching session, sir. I think we have to have multiple sessions going forward on the myths that you were talking of busting, uh, because a lot of things, because that gives clarity to the younger generation, and
Right.
reasoning is perfect. Once the reasoning is there, they stand on firm footing, and faith, religion, science, everything, all pillars get strengthened. So I think that is
Right.
one effort which we'll work on, sir, going forward.
Right. And the quick one word I will add, what you just did, in fact, starting this Veranda Club and the magazine 3 years ago, right on the Vijayadashmi day. Well, this itself is a good illustration of
Yes, yes.
how multiple things get added on a specific day. So there is a Vijayadashmi celebration, then we added the Pandavas taking out their weapons, Rama killing Ravan, and Veranda Club
In our
beginning
own
on
small
that
way of beginning.
Vijayadashmi day, right?
Right, right.
Well, thank you very much for inviting
Thank you
me.
so much, sir. And in about 2 weeks' time, we have the second edition of Western Ghats Lit Fest, and we do hope you come as a speaker, a guest of. It'll be a great honor to host you in Coimbatore for or probably the next edition of the Lit Fest next year, sir. We look forward for that, and we look forward for more learning from your research work. Thank you so much for taking out time and enlightening us, sir. And Shubh Navratri to all the viewers of Varanda Club and outside also. And Shubh Navaratri to you, sir. Thank you so much. Pranams.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaskar. Namaskar.